So the last video that I put up about the most boring taste in anime has been getting a lot of attention in a way that I should have probably predicted. Both positive and negative, or really not so much negative, as people just questioning the logic of it. You know, some people could easily see my point, and some I don't think did. And the first thing I want to clarify about that video is that I was in no way implying that it's bad to have any of the shows I talked about on your favorites list. They're all great shows. The point I was making was that when you have a list with only those shows, only shows that are consensus masterpieces that everyone agrees are great shows that no one would question, that's when it seems like you're trying to put up a certain self-image, you know? Like, I wouldn't question anyone having any of those shows on their favorites list. It's just when I see a top 9 that's only, and especially when it's all of the ones I mentioned, like when they're separated by those types, when you have one 80s show and one Masaaki Yuasa show and one Legend of Galactic Heroes, like, it's when you have all of them categorically in your top 9. And almost no one who commented on that video had a list like that. Like, people started sending me a million top 9s. Like, I should have probably not put the line about sending them to me because I got way too many. But no one has Taste This Boring. If they did, they probably wouldn't be willing to post it on the video because, you know, it'd kind of be admitting to the thing I'm talking about. But the phenomenon I'm describing is not what I think people are worried that their top 9s now are. And so I should have brought up this in the previous video, but a big part of all this is about guilt. Guilty pleasures, the feeling of guilt that people feel about shows, and the feeling of trying to project an image that you have good taste. And my good friend Ghost Lightning wrote a post about this in 2009 that's always been one of my favorite, like, posts on the subject of anime ever, on the subject of anime culture. Really, it's more about just the internet in general, but it was from the perspective of being about anime. And I've wanted to just adapt this post into a video forever. Like, I've always been thinking it would be nice, because I've tried, like, rewriting it for myself or seeing if I could, you know, just write about the same thing in my own way, but he says it so perfectly, there's really no reason to. So I was going to ask him if I could, like, make a video out of this, but I feel like it's such a specific thing that there's no reason to do it if I didn't have, like, an inciting incident. Like, if people weren't talking about this, because I don't think most people think about this or care all that much. But then now I have the perfect opportunity on this channel, and instead of, like, adapting the video, the post, I can just read it. So I think I'm just gonna read you this Ghost Lightning post, and you can read it for yourself if you want. It's down in the description. I'm not gonna monetize this video because obviously this is not really my content. It's of my friend. Hopefully he won't mind. I don't think he will. So anyways, I'm gonna read this post. It's called "Anime is Serious Business Because Guilt is Serious Business." Guilt. Yes, guilt. Nobody wants to feel it. It implies one did something wrong and is inferior to those who do otherwise. I was told once that in matters of taste, there should be no disputes. In anime and manga, however, not to imply that it doesn't occur elsewhere, taste is part of a social dominance game that's played for high stakes, self-esteem on the internet. Sure, it sounds silly, and it is, but people do operate under the paradigm of taste. They accuse each other of having bad taste and praise creative works for being tasteful, as if the benchmark or touchstone for such a thing can just be taken for granted. The concern here is people will like certain shows. These shows make people enjoy themselves. Obvious enough, right? However, within any society, there is a competition amongst thoughts and opinions. Darwinian thinking leads to the idea of among opinions, there is a survival of the fittest, and the fittest get to dominate, to become the most influential. Extend this to the internet and we face social concerns of blogs and review sites. Dominant opinions gather the most eyeballs, page views, subscribers, etc. These all come into play. More importantly, nobody wants to feel bad about liking a show. Here's some things to consider. 90% of anime and manga is shit. as per Sturgeon's revelation. Or 80% of the good stuff one gets out of anime and manga comes from 20% of the examples, if we follow Pareto's principle, the law of the vital few. Take your pick. Either way, many shows will likely fall under the not excellent spectrum of quality. Most people won't enjoy being identified with bad taste, so with regards to liking anime and manga with questionable quality, a choice confronts the viewer. Number 1. I accept that this work is flawed, bad, terrible, and that my taste is flawed / bad / terrible. Or, number 2, I reject the idea that this work is flawed / bad / terrible, other people are wrong. While I think that this is a false dichotomy and an easily enough deconstructed binary, I posit more often than not, even without the statistics to back up my claims, that this choice presents itself first. This is the choice architecture that determines people's behavior more than calm reflection and expression. When people actually choose number 1, that your taste is flawed, bad, terrible, or are forced to due to overall consensus that a show is terrible, they often play a card that allows them to pretend that their liking of such a show does not reflect on their overall tastes at all. They categorize the show as a guilty pleasure. This guilty pleasure concept, as applied to units of culture, interestingly enough, makes it so that the individual pleasuring himself with the subject work never has to feel guilt. The show or manga somehow doesn't count. Personally, I don't think people should feel any guilt for liking something with less than excellent values, which are subjective anyways. This whole business of guilty pleasure that is founded on the relative quality of subject works is inauthentic. It's not as if that we are truly expected to only watch and enjoy the consensus masterpieces. It's just that we often behave as if we are expected to, and that we impose this on others. How do we do this? We trash shows that we don't like, or expect others to not like. I remember how people used the guilty pleasure apology for continuing to watch Code Geass R2 every week, despite the big effort scathing commentary that they would put out after every episode. People just can't be with the idea that they can actually like bad shows without irony and defensiveness. After all, there are those who are chomping at the bit to attack people's tastes, to call people morons or trash. Attacking shows and calling them trash is just a setup. It's not difficult for me to imagine why people get so defensive. Look, popular shows get attacked. Consensus masterpieces get attacked. It's really not surprising why shows like Camphor or the Fall '09 season, or hell, the entire anime industry as it currently stands gets attacked. Furthermore, we identify ourselves with our tastes whether we like it or not. Picking lists of favorites is serious business. In a market of opinions where influence and eyeballs are the currency, our branding as fans, bloggers, critics, and connoisseurs is rather critical. Nobody really wants to be accused of having poor taste, and this kind of guilt bothers people. If I haven't made it clear, I don't subscribe to this kind of guilt. Quality, in terms of artistic and literary merit, are not my thing in terms of creating levels and hierarchies among works within culture. No, what I should rather say is, I don't like the idea of levels and hierarchies among cultural works, period, for the dominance games that occur in the process of developing such, and the whole dominance faggerjackery that will occur when such hierarchies are made official. I'm not saying that guilty pleasures don't exist. Quite the contrary. I posit, however, that guilt is a feeling from moral wrongness. While enjoying anime and manga can be a moral concern, it isn't fundamentally so. If I lie, I feel guilty. If I cheat, I feel guilty. If I vote for a crook and elect her into office, I feel guilty. When I think Ikari Gendo from Neon Genesis Evangelion is cool, I feel guilty. When I take pleasure in watching a child, Hitokiri Batosai, murder swordsmen in a gruesome bloodbath, I feel a little guilty. Reveling while hundreds of thousands of soldiers get blasted into space dust while watching a huge fleet battle in The Legend of the Galactic Heroes, yeah, can make me feel guilty. I don't think about it too much. I play the guilty pleasure card and move on to the next show. Does this excuse me from the inauthenticity and hypocrisy of the whole guilty pleasure business? I don't think so. Outside my core tastes, there are other pleasures that one can feel guilt from indulging, such as getting off on watching or reading female grade schoolers breastfeed each other, or simply wishing certain characters to die for whatever reasons. Help me think of others. I feel that it is important to note how the guilty pleasures I identified aren't media specific nor even genre specific. I'm very interested in identifying such examples. If you can share a few here in the comments, I would highly appreciate it. And that's Ghost Lightning's post on guilty pleasures. So yeah, my stance on guilty pleasures is essentially the same as Ghost Lightning's, but what I hope this has made clear is that the reason I have this problem with these 3x3s that project this certain image is that I think it's a matter of trying to project an identity of having great taste, of having taste that no one will question, because it's an identity game. It's trying to, make it so you're at the top of the food chain in terms of taste, because someone like me, who actually puts my real favorites on my list, the ones that most resonate with me, puts myself at risk with shows like K-On! Or Kill La Kill of people looking at it and not taking the things I say seriously. You have no idea how many comments I get that say, K-On! Is your favorite anime, I can't take you seriously anymore. Or, wow, really, K-On!? I can't believe it, unsubscribed. Like, I get comments like that all the time, because there's a risk in presenting yourself as someone who doesn't have what is commonly considered to be great taste. And I think that a lot of people aren't willing to take that risk, and that's why they make those kinds of 3x3s. Hope you enjoyed this, everybody. Peace.